delighted to say, though, to look ahead to our Premier League encounter at Elland Road on the weekend is returning friend of the podcast, friend of mine, and sports journalist, all-round good guy and Leeds fan from the Sun, Kieran Benn. Kieran, wonderful to have you back again, mate. Thank you for joining us. That background of yours, the studio looks absolutely phenomenal stuff. I like the effort you've put in there, mate. Bit of a retro. Is that a Packard Bell Leeds shirt you've got on there?
No, it's Strongbow.
Strongbow, nice. Yeah, massively Mark Viduka, that, isn't it?
What
year is that, mate? What year is that?
Oh, mate, 2000. I'm going to say 2002. I'm probably going to get it wrong. I reckon about 2002.
2002.
After that, we got relegated in 2003, 2004. So it's not that top.
No, exactly. Well, on that note, Kieran, you're 17th at the moment. Marcelo Bielsa, managerial genius. I don't know what's happened to that one. I've always shouted it from whoever would listen on this podcast or just in the street, really, that Marcelo Bielsa perhaps a little bit overrated. 17th this season. We don't swear on the podcast, but if you could see my notes for how Leeds have looked so far this season, I've used a word that isn't broadcastable on the We Are West Ham podcast. However, what's going on? You've drawn with Newcastle and Burnley so far. You basically deserve to go down for not beating one of them, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a disappointing start considering just how well we did last season. But I mean, it's always going to be tougher, and I think football hasn't really stopped, and we've got maybe our key player has been worked a lot harder this season. You know, going to the Euros and then playing all the international games, and hasn't really had a break. So he is the hub of our team.
Was just who are you talking about there, mate? Calvin Phillips.
Calvin Phillips. Sorry, yeah. Let me just give you the name. The better Declan Rice. So he's obviously he hasn't stopped playing. I think there's a chance that it's not quite clicking as much due to them all probably being a bit knackered, but at the same time, it's Premier League, isn't it? So you've got to be up to speed. I think the one thing for me from a fan point of view is usually when we're playing well and everything is sort of moving like clockwork. The football is beautiful, but it's really jolty at times this season. So it's not quite settled the way I'd like to have. But then again, saying that, we have played Everton, Man United, and Liverpool so far. So difficult to say.
And Newcastle and Burnley.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, the Burnley game was things were clicking in places, and then they weren't in the other. It was just a bit like it looks like everything was coming together, and we were starting to get in the groove of things. We thought, okay, well, we might actually get a few goals here, and then it went, and then we looked like we were going to lose 2-3 goals, and then Newcastle we should have been probably up by 4 by half time, and didn't do it, so we then got punished. But it's the Premier League, isn't it? You can't really make mistakes like that.
No, just quickly then, mate, before the lads jump in, you mentioned about being tired or whatever. I'm genuinely not being facetious, but is there anything sort of specific about Leeds? Because lots of teams have had players playing in internationals over the summer. I know Leeds played. Do you think it's just because of the nature and the style of play Bielsa plays? It's that bit more taxing, so the fatigue creeps in sooner, or because Declan Rice played alongside Phillips at the Euros. He's looked pretty fresh so far this season, and plenty of other international players at other clubs haven't. Well, not using that as an excuse for nearly being in the relegation zone.
Yeah, I mean, no, completely. I don't think I can put it down to the whole of that. And to be fair, it's probably it's not an excuse. I mean, Leeds' football, as everyone kind of knows, is all about high press and running constantly, and they make you work and they make you run. Even if that's not really your style, you end up quite often playing Leeds' style because, or like playing against Leeds' style rather than being able to play your own style because they run so hard. I think having played it maybe for 3-4 seasons now, I wouldn't be too surprised if it was playing a part. But then again, that's probably just a naive view. I think, if you had Bielsa here and he would probably disagree with me completely and say it's not down to that. But
we did try to get him, mate, but he's busy.
No, mate. Look. I think we've also there's things in the summer that a lot of fans aren't happy with. The recruitment side of things. Then again, we just spent £100 million last year. But looking at it now, we needed a centre midfielder this season. We needed like Rodrigo. We were kind of unsure whether he can really play that position where Pablo Hernandez used to play. He's come in, obviously, he's a £27 million player. And everyone's kind of thinking we need a centre midfielder because we're low on our feet. We needed a left back. We've got Junior Firpo, who's looked like he wasn't really doing much great, but wasn't really doing much wrong. And then it was set kind of the same again against Newcastle. I think it's not all down to the tiredness at all, and it probably is down to it. None of it to it. It's just not. The football is not free flowing at the moment. Bamford's doing his usual hard work. Calvin's spraying his usual balls. In fairness, our centre halves we've got none at the moment. You know, I mean we've got a couple, but you know we've got Charlie Cresswell who's looking like he could even play in one of the next few games, even though he hasn't played a single game yet, just because we've got Strike, Llorente, Robin Koch, and now Ayling probably injured as well. So, yeah, we're struggling defensively, but it's just it's not quite what it was last season yet. But I don't think there's any worry in any Leeds fans really that we're going to go down.
Kieran, do you think that maybe I'm not going to suggest that there's going to be sort of the second season syndrome, as it's called, but do you think that there is a danger that a lot of teams in the Premier League, a lot of managers in the Premier League, they're caught off guard by Bielsa and Leeds a little bit last season in terms of the intensity and all the rest of it? Do you think maybe this year a lot more teams would have been a little bit more clued up because Bielsa famously doesn't change his approach, doesn't change his system. It's his way or the highway. Do you think that might be Leeds' downfall a little bit this season, that teams will know what to expect when they come up against Leeds this year?
I think it's one thing knowing what to expect and one thing actually stopping it. Every team knows how Leeds play. It's not a secret. And to be fair, after about 5 games last season, it's still not a secret. It's just whether you can stop it. I'm not saying it's unbeatable because obviously it's not. I'm just saying there's one system that got us here, and there's one system that's going to get us further, and it's that system. We are going to get beat, and we are going to lose. But then again, we have lost to 3 of the top 4, or was at the time. So it's hard to say really. Like I think managers can understand what's going on and can understand how Leeds play, but I think that we're in good nick to kind of pick up form again. And you know, teams maybe after a slow start to the season, teams might think, okay, well we might be able to catch them out now, and then we'll get the run going again. We do often have these moments in seasons, but they're usually around halfway. And then we usually go on like a 6 or 7 run streak of like not losing or winning most of them. And there's no reason I don't think that couldn't happen again, because I still think there's maybe 6 or 7 teams that are definitely worse than us in this league.
Touching on the second season syndrome again, Kieran, do you think having fans back in the ground at Elland Road, because of how sort of passionate they are, would put pressure on players that have never played in front of them? And do you think that could be a cause of why you've been a bit sort of slow starters again?
It's funny you say that, actually, because when the first season we were trying to get out of the Championship, I thought it was the nerves of the fans was really getting into the players' minds as we were getting towards the end of the season. I thought it's probably maybe playing a part. And then when COVID hit, and there was less fans, there was no fans, sorry. I thought, okay, well maybe the nerves won't get into the play. It'll be like training games, and they'd be able to do it in training. There won't be that extra pressure. So it could be like that. But then again, last time we had a second season in the Premier League, we won it. So in the top division, there's no reason I don't think that you can put. No logical reason I think you can say that we're going to have a second season syndrome, because usually these teams that don't have massively experienced managers who in top flight football. I mean, Sheffield United struggled a lot, so much so that look what happened to them. And Bielsa's probably not the guy who's going to just let something keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. But that just comes down to having a top manager at the club.
Looking ahead to this weekend, Kieran, see last year we went to Elland Road and snatched a late winner. We don't win much at Elland Road. I think it's only two or three times in Premier League history. I think not even that. What can we expect from Leeds? What can West Ham expect from Leeds? You mentioned there's been, it's a makeshift defence and there's a few injuries. Should we be worried of sort of a high intensity rested Leeds side, or are you a little bit worried about sort of what's to come?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't worried a little bit, because West Ham obviously proven last season you guys have got a bit about you, and it's not exactly gone away. What you can expect from Leeds is the same as we always do. I mean, it's such an easy thing to say, isn't it? But like, you can expect high pressing football and trying to break you down the counter attack. So, you know, these set pieces you get where you've got, well, you beat us with last season at Elland Road. We're gonna try and counter on those, and you're gonna experience a game where we'll try and have the majority of the possession and break you down in the same style every single time, and then it might come off. It's hard to say this season because we haven't looked like the Leeds United of last season. That's what's obviously a little bit scary, but and a bit disappointing. But there's been glimpses of it, and I think against West Ham, after 5 games and not got a win yet, I don't think the players are just going to roll over and let you play your own game. I think, you know, in front of the fans, and they're going to give a big performance. It's hard to say which way it will go, but the 2 games last season against West Ham weren't particularly going our way in either of them. So yeah, I mean, you're going to expect a fight, but it's hard to say which way it's going to go.
Has the confidence suffered yet, Kieran? Because obviously you talk about the way Leeds play, and it is just one rigid way of playing. But that doesn't mean that I know the players at Leeds perhaps are slightly more robotic, and perhaps there's less room to express themselves than there is at some other clubs. But as a confidence must still come in it for the players, and not having picked up a win yet, and being hovering just above that relegation zone. Have you seen or noticed any sort of dips in confidence as a result, or are you expecting any perhaps?
Well, I mean, not to pick him out because I think he's brilliant. I think he's probably our second best player is Patrick Bamford. I feel like if he's not firing, which he doesn't seem to be, he's got 1 goal this season. I might be wrong on that, but I think he had a chance against Newcastle, and it's little moments where you just, it's the fear of what he was like in the Championship. He's nowhere near. He's much better than he was in the Championship, but there's little glimpses of it, and you think, is the form not there, and how far is it going to go before we realise we're not scoring any goals? Which is, again, what happened in the Championship was we created 20 chances, 25 chances, and would score maybe 1 goal. And it was basically just our last season. For the first time, I thought we were making the most of chances, which we haven't done yet. And this season, it's, you know, we're having chances again, and you only have to look at the first half of Newcastle to think we're getting the chances and not finishing them. And the confidence in these players, they're only human, but then again, they probably got great sports psychologists. Is you're only going to get maybe like have a bit of doubt in your mind, but I just don't feel the manager is going to let them not have self-belief in themselves. It's one thing that Bielsa is best at is coaching individual players, and I just don't see the confidence getting knocked soon, and I don't think it's been knocked yet. But it depends how long this run goes on without a win.
Yeah, of course, mate. Of course. Well, look, I mean, it's a retro Premier League game, a proper classic Leeds versus West Ham United. It's Saturday, it's 3:00, and it's in a classic old stadium as well. So it's a brilliant game of football, you know, for the traditionalists amongst us. Give us your score prediction, mate. It doesn't sound you're too doom and gloom. Obviously, a little bit less flamboyant than you were on the podcast last season, I think, which is absolutely nice. As you well know, I prefer the subdued version of Kieran Benn to give us a score prediction. Saturday afternoon, 3:00, Leeds v West Ham at Elland Road.
Look, I've got to back my team and go for a 3-1 win to Leeds.
3-1 win. I mean, have you ever heard look, both of the boys think you're absolutely mad. Have you ever heard a man be so subdued about his team and then go, yeah, but we're going to win 3-1, aren't we?
It's you every week, though, Will.
Yeah, that is true, actually, mate. Yeah, that is true. Well, look, Kieran, it's absolutely brilliant to have you on again, mate. Thanks for coming along. We'll be sure to call you up for the return leg later in the season, of course. Kieran Benn there, video producer extraordinaire, big Leeds fan from the Sun. Kieran, great to have you back on the show again. He's going for a 3-1 win. Lads, just quickly then before we move on, Jonesy and Reece score predictions for that game at Leeds. Jonesy first.
I'm going to go. I'm confident. I'm going to go 2-1 West Ham. Repeat of last season.
2-1 West Ham. I like it. Reece?
3-1 West Ham.
3-1 West Ham. Jesus, would you believe it? Well, look, we've got the Betway charity bets out of the way already. So, yeah, I think there's some positive vibes coming from Reece and James there. I'm going to go, I do fancy us to just nick it as well, but I'm going to go for a 3-2 goals.